Something surprising happened. Shoude, Su and Steve Hogwitz disappeared without a trace from their heavily guarded hotel room. They were taken to Orville's dog farm kennel. Chengfeng Su's parents were attacked by Leona's parents because they thought he was the mastermind behind Liona and Zhiyu's disappearance. The dragon's eyes that were watching Shoude and Steve were unexpectedly quicker to kidnap them. Dear viewers, please follow this increasingly hot episode. Thank you.
Chapter 2481. Kidnapping. Harvey's expression twitched. What he fears most is that Shoude is kidnapped. So he couldn't help thinking in his heart, how do I say I am also one of the veteran-level masters of the Su family? This time I personally came to Aurous Hill to protect the second son. If he is really kidnapped silently under my nose, then where to put this old face? How can I explain to the master when I go back? Immediately, he thought of Steve who lives next door to Shoude, as if grabbing a life-saving straw, and blurted out, will the boss chat with that American next door? The assistant, like him, was waiting for a miracle to happen. Seeing that the Master Su was nowhere to be found in presidential suit, he was panicked to death. Hearing this, his eyes immediately brightened and he blurted out excitedly, it is possible, really possible. After speaking, immediately turned around and ran out. Others hurriedly followed. As a result, when he rang the doorbell in the next room, there was still no response. The people who were still holding a glimmer of hope immediately sank their hearts to the bottom. Everyone looked at Elder Harvey, waiting for him to make an idea. Harvey usually has a calm and unpredictable expression on his face, and his expression at this time is exactly the same as when his father died when he was 18 years old. With a dark face, he kicked Stephen's door open and rushed in with everyone, only to find that Stephen, like Shoude, had also evaporated. Harvey was like a dog, smelling here, looking there, and groping around for a long time, but didn't find any valuable clues. He was so panicked that at the end of the touch, his hands trembled uncontrollably. Finally, he sat down on the ground and said with a gray face, "Quick! Call the master to report." A few minutes ago, Chengfeng Su just lay down. Originally, what happened in Aurous Hill made him sleepless. In particular, the whereabouts of Liona and Zhiyu are unaccounted for, making him always worried about the incident. Moreover, he was indeed a little worried about his eldest granddaughter Zhiyu. After all, she was apple of his eyes since childhood, and he really loved her very much. However, as the Su family gradually took control of public opinion, his inner worries eased a lot. Although he was still a little worried about Zhiyu, he later thought about it carefully. Zhiyu and Liona got into the car together, had a car accident together, and disappeared together. If he hoped that Liona would die, Zhiyu would certainly not escape death. If he hoped that Zhiyu will survive, then Liona will probably survive too. Therefore, he later turned his mind back and thought to himself, the most worry-free result is that the two should die together. Otherwise, if only Zhiyu is alive, then based on her character, she will definitely do everything possible. Investigate the whole thing, and maybe they will turn against me at that time, so I just hope they die, so I don't have to worry myself. He was somewhat relieved to understand this level. Now just wait for Shoude to feed back the message confirming the death of their wives as soon as possible. At this moment, the butler knocked on the door to announce, "Master, the Du family is here." The Du family. Chengfeng Su was a big head and asked, "Why are they here?" The butler hurriedly said, "Elijah, old man, brought Renal, the eldest of the Du family, with him." Elder Su couldn't help rubbing his temples, and sighed inwardly, what the FCK, what did the Du family come to see me for? Didn't they come to me and ask the teacher? Shouldn't it? Aurous Hill is not my site, and there is no evidence to prove it that Liona was killed by me. Did they ask me about it? However, the Du's family is still my in-laws after all, and they also have a deep relationship at the top level. They can't clearly be offended, so I can only deal with it. Thinking of this, Elder Su said to the butler, "You arrange for them to sit in the living room for a while, and I will come there." "Okay, Lord." A few minutes later, Mr. Su stepped into the living room. As soon as he arrived in the living room, he saw the Du family's father and son standing in the middle of the living room with an angry face. He immediately pretended to have a pained expression, greeted him, and sobbed, "Father-in-law, what is going on with Liona and Zhiyu? Do you have any information?" Elijah said coldly, "Chengfeng I still want to ask you. Does the matter between Liona and Zhiyu have anything to do with you? You'd better tell me the truth, otherwise, Elijah and you are at odds. Me. Grandpa Su pointed to his nose and said with a hardtake, Liona is my daughter-in-law, and Zhiyu is my granddaughter. How could I hurt them? After speaking, he immediately added, you tell me, I have sent Shoude to Aurous Hill to investigate and rescue. Even if I try my best, I must try my best to keep them safe. Although Elijah had some doubts about Father Su, there was no evidence after all. And one thing that puzzles him a little is that he knows that Grandpa Su loves Zhiyu, his granddaughter, very much. If Liona had an accident, they would think 80% of the work was done by Grandpa Su or Xin, who is far away in Australia. However, because Zhiyu also followed suit, they both felt that the two men would not murder their granddaughter or their daughter. Therefore, Elijah, who is not sure about the situation for the time being, asked coldly, did Shoude go to Aurous Hill to investigate? Any results? This, Mr. Su said with a sad expression, I haven't received any clear feedback yet. He just told me that he has asked people to search the hospital in Aurous Hill, but they didn't find any lead. With that said, Old Man Su hurriedly said, don't worry, father-in-law, I will call now and ask Shoude if there is any update. Elijah nodded and said, okay, then you can ask him. As he was talking, the butler's cell phone rang suddenly, and he hurried to the corner to connect, and then ran over to report, Master, it's Mr. Harvey's call, he's saying that there is something important to report to you. Oh, Elder Su said hurriedly, give me the phone. The housekeeper hurriedly handed him the phone number. After the old man Su connected, he immediately asked, Mr. Harvey, have you found any important clues in Aurous Hill? Harvey said with a trembling voice, Old Master, yes, I'm sorry. Sorry for what? Elder Su noticed something wrong, frowned and asked, what is the important thing, hurry up. Harvey choked and said, Second young master. Second young master. Old man Su was mad and blurted out, don't talk nonsense, when you talk to me. What happened to Shoude? Hurry up. Harvey sighed heavily, Master. Second young master, he is missing. Suddenly, the whole person was excited, and he blurted out, missing. What the hell are you talking about? A living person, under your nose, disappeared right after arriving in Aurous Hill. Chengfeng couldn't accept it. His second son had just arrived in Aurous Hill and had not even been able to spend the night in Aurous Hill. He had disappeared. Besides, Harvey's strength he knows. Playing for the Su family for many years, it is almost a rare match. Shoude had him secretly protected, how could he still disappear? Mr. Harvey on the phone was also lamenting at this time, and said with shame, Master. I have been on the same floor as the second son, and I have been guarding against any disturbances, but unexpectedly, the second son suddenly seemed has evaporated from the world, disappearing from his room. This whole thing is so weird that I can't believe it. As he said, he hurriedly said again, by the way, not only the second son is missing, but even the new friend of the second son is also missing. Elder Su hurriedly asked, a new friend? What kind of friend? Elder Harvey hurriedly explained, it was an American that the second son met at the airport. Their family had something to do with the Rothschild family, and he happened to book the same hotel with the second son, so the second son invited him to stay. He was next door. Elder Su blurted out and asked, could it be that American has any problems? Not very much, said Elder Harvey, I have observed that American is an ordinary middle-aged person, not like someone with kung fu or special strength, so it must not be him. Grandpa Su frowned and said coldly, this thing is even more weird. It is already very difficult to let one person disappear under your noses silently, let alone get two people away at the same time. Quote, Elder Harvey hurriedly said, yes, sir, I suspect that the opponent must be a master of masters. Elder Su said nervously, how can such a powerful person exist in such a small place as Aurous Hill? You have been among martial artists for so many years. Have you heard of any masters in Aurous Hill? Never. Elder Harvey said truthfully, Master, frankly speaking, Aurous Hill doesn't even have a martial arts clan that can be slightly famous. Then it's even more weird. Elder Su felt a panic in his heart. He couldn't help but rubbed his temples and said, Aurous Hill is really weird, Liona and Zhiyu's whereabouts are still unknown, and they disappeared suddenly after being guarded. It feels like there is a strong magnetic field in this place that is inexplicable and unknown, and there is a strange and mysterious person somewhere. Elder Harvey hurriedly said, Master, strange things are not only that. The American today came to Aurous Hill from a long distance because he was also looking for his son. His whole company disappeared together, and no news or clues were found. Old Su felt a chill in his back. He really didn't understand what kind of strong man was hiding behind him. With this ability to cover the sky with one hand, that person must be extraordinary. So he hurriedly gritted his teeth and said, Harvey, no matter what method you use, you must find Shoude's whereabouts. If you can't find them, then you don't have to come back. After that, he glanced at Elijah aside, and hurriedly said again, there are also Liona and Zhiyu. The three of them are from the Su family. We must bring them back safely. Harvey hurriedly said, Master, don't worry, I will go all out. Elder Su said, okay. Investigate clues in Aurous Hill first, and I will send someone to support you immediately. After hanging up the phone, Mr. Su said to Elijah with a guilty expression, my father-in-law, you heard it just now. Now not only Liona and Zhiyu are missing, but Shoude is also missing. You can no longer doubt that am I messing up behind your back. Liona is my daughter-in-law, Zhiyu is my own granddaughter, and Shoude is my own son. Obviously someone is deliberately targeting our Su family. Elijah originally came with the motive of prospering the teacher to inquire about crimes, but what happened just now made him involuntarily dispelling the suspicion of Chengfeng's involvement. When things have reached this point, in his opinion, it is absolutely impossible for Chengfeng to play a ghost behind his back. Some people even don't let Shoude go. This shows that they are people going to fight against the Su family. Thinking of this, he hurriedly asked, Old Su, are you telling me the truth? Have you offended anyone recently? Think about it, who is more suspicious in your eyes? Elder Su spread his hand out and said, you know my character. I don't usually constrain, so I offend many people. So now you make me think, I can't think of who it will be. Elijah couldn't help sighing. He knew very well that Chengfeng was telling the truth. Since the Su family surpassed the Wade family and became the first family of China, Chengfeng has always regarded himself as the leader of the business community. He is usually arrogant, not concerned, and many people are offended by him. Thinking of this, he said sternly, Old Su, what happened just now was that I was rash. The top priority now is to quickly find out all three of them. I sent people to Aurous Hill 2 hours ago. I think it's better for our two families to investigate together, what do you think? Seeing that he had temporarily resolved Elijah's suspicion, he was slightly relieved and said, oh, my father-in-law, if you would be willing to investigate with me, that would be great. I'm afraid you will blame me and misunderstand me. You were so grudged with me, I didn't expect that you would still be willing to join hands with the two. It really moved me. Elijah said a little apologetically. I just said something inappropriate because I was impatient for a while, and I hope you don't mind too much. Elder Su immediately said ashamed, how could it be my father-in-law? You handed Liona to our Su family, and we failed to protect her. This is the Su family's responsibility. Even if you beat me, it is also me. Chengfeng deserves it. As he said, he sighed and waved his hand. Hey, let's not talk about this. The top priority now is that we have to quickly send more people to Aurous Hill. Even if Aurous Hill is turned upside down, we must take them all. Save our all children. Elijah nodded and said, in this case, Renal and I will go back and sort out all the resources and contacts, and transfer all the available personnel to Aurous Hill as soon as possible. Okay. Elder Su also deliberately pretended to be excited, and said, if this is the case, then I will immediately mobilize all the manpower that can be mobilized. Elijah gave a hum and said, my father-in-law, then we will leave first. Elder Su hurriedly said, I will send you out. Elijah hurriedly said, don't be so polite, we just go out by ourselves. Elder Su pretended to be angry and said, my father-in-law, what can you do with me? Come, I'll see you off. At this moment, Aurous Hill. The helicopter flew all the way to the dog farm of Orville. At this time, the kennel is already busy. Orville took his confidant and was looking forward to it, waiting for Charlie's arrival. As the roar of helicopters in the sky grew louder and louder, everyone's expectations were also beyond words. Immediately afterwards, the helicopter descended slowly and stopped in the middle of the kennel. Orville immediately led people to greet him. At this time, Isik opened the helicopter's hatch, and then made an inviting gesture to Charlie, respectfully saying, "Master, please." Charlie nodded and got off the plane with Ruoli. Orville hurriedly said, "Master, I have prepared the single room for the warm father-son reunion ceremony. It is all ready. When do you think we start?" "Don't worry." Charlie waved his hand and pointed to Shoude and Steve, who were still unconscious in the cabin. "Leave only a pair of pants, and pour a basin of cold water on each of them. By the way, remember to open the windows. It is still in the first month of the year, and the weather in Aurous Hill is still cold, showing no signs of warming up. In this kind of weather, if you are stripped of your clothes and poured on a basin of cold water, and you are still in a room with wide open windows, most people probably cannot bear it." Orville didn't hesitate at all, and immediately said to his men next to him, "Hurry up and bring these two guys to the office. Besides, go to the individual and get some cold water." Several subordinates immediately stepped forward and dragged the unconscious Shoude and Steve directly to Orville's office. Charlie asked at this moment, "Orville, how is Walter now?" Orville hurriedly said, "Master, Walter is now in the late stage of uremia. Don't worry, I have given full play to the humanitarian spirit and actively treated him. Now he is given hemodialysis once a day. Basically, keep his dog's life." Charlie nodded and said, "Take me to see him." "Okay, master." Orville took Charlie and Isik to that area of the kennel. Charlie walked, observing left and right, and exclaimed, "Your place is indeed going to be expanded. Do you have any plans to start construction?" Orville respectfully said, "Master, since President Isik told me about this last time, I have already asked people to come up with an expansion plan." After speaking, he introduced to Charlie very seriously, "My current preliminary plan is to free up an area of 500 square meters in the yard, excavate this area directly, and build a 3-story underground. By then, the total usable area of the 3-dimensional kennel will be at least more than 1,000 square meters. It will be no problem to build 70 or 80 kennels. This 3-dimensional kennel is entirely made of reinforced concrete. There are no exits on the 3 underground floors. All entrances and exits are concentrated in a large room on the ground. People must go through this large room for security inspection. 24 hours of security by guards to ensure that no dog is allowed to escape from the kennel." Charlie smiled slightly and joked, "In that case, your kennel can raise at least 1,000 dogs." "Yeah, master," Orville said with a smile. "Expanding at this scale should be enough, but as long as you say something, I can continue to expand at any time." "It is not possible. We can put the entire kennel underground and develop it." Charlie nodded in satisfaction, and said, "If you don't have enough money, please tell me at any time. I personally still have a good view of business. It doesn't matter if I invest more." Isik was listening to the chat between the two of them. For some reason, what he imagined in his mind was all kinds of people locked in dog cages. At this time, a few people have come to the gate of the kennel. Orville immediately asked people to open the heavy iron door. As soon as he entered the door, he heard the fighting dogs in the surrounding kennels barking. Seeing this, Orville immediately shouted with a cold face, "It's all the Fu King to shut up for master. Whoever dares to bark, I will kill today." Amazingly, when Orville shouted, all the dogs in the kennel stopped without exception. Orville was satisfied and said to Charlie, "Master, please here." Charlie followed Orville into the kennel. In the middle, he saw all of Walter's men and Chengfeng's men, Stuart and the 4 of them. When Stuart saw Charlie, his eyes looked like a ghost. Since being imprisoned in the kennel and seeing Walter's fate with his own eyes, Stuart's fear of Charlie has deepened several layers. He is locked here now, and what is most worried about is how Charlie will send him off next. In the unlikely event that someone arranges a set meal, similar to Walter for himself, wouldn't he be better off in this life? What frightened him even more was what if Charlie really let someone raise a group of African hyenas. Therefore, he saw Charlie coming over, behind the iron cage, kneeling on the ground and started begging to Charlie. "Master, please forgive me. We really knew that we were wrong. Please be merciful and go around us." Orville shouted sharply at this time, "You guys are Fu King crooked, I'll just tie you up and throw you into a dogfight that have been hungry for more than 3 days." Stuart immediately trembled in shock. Like the barking fighting dogs before, he didn't even dare to say a word for a moment. Orville hurriedly said to Charlie, "Master, don't mind, these new guys don't understand the rules. Let me train them for a few days. In a few days, they will become honest and convincing. Totally docile." Charlie nodded and said indifferently, "These people are extremely sinful and they are of no use value. If they perform well, they will be left with a dog. If they do not perform well, just kill them." Orville said immediately, "Okay, Master." Stuart was even more frightened when he heard Charlie's words. He knew that he had no use value to Charlie now, because he had already recorded a video exposing the crimes of the Su family under Charlie's persecution. Under this circumstance, it is really possible for Charlie to ask him for his life at any time. At this time, Orville took Charlie past the cage of Stuart and the others, pointed to an iron cage not far away, and said, "Master, Walter is in that cage." Charlie looked in the direction of his fingers, and saw a single hospital bed in the iron cage, and several various medical devices beside. Walter was lying on the hospital bed extremely weak, his whole body swollen for several laps. Seeing Charlie coming, he was shocked and scared, and at the same time he hated Charlie. After all, he is also the pride of the sky. Having suffered such a serious crime these days, the whole person is like falling into the 18th floor of hell, so naturally he is full of hatred for Charlie. Charlie came to the iron cage, looked at Walter, who was pale and swollen, and asked with concern, "Mr. Walter, how are you feeling okay in the past 2 days? There is nothing wrong with my subordinates, right?" Walter roared angrily, "Charlie, you are a total devil." Charlie asked curiously, "Oh, I'm the devil? I just want you to taste it. That's the method you use to deal with others. Why am I a devil?" Walter gritted his teeth and roared, "You better let me out quickly. Otherwise, our Hogwarts family will not let you go. The Rothschilds will not let you go. They will definitely come to Aurous Hill to kill you." Charlie smiled slightly and said, "Your Hogwarts family is indeed amazing. I heard that in order to find you, a guy named Steve Hogwarts came here. Are you familiar with this person?" When Walter heard Charlie mention the word Steve Hogwarts, his expression immediately became amazed. He did not expect that his father would rush to Aurous Hill himself to find him. This did not make him feel half divided, but it made him feel a deep panic deep in his heart. Although he is still using the names of the Hogwarts family and the Rothschild family to try to frighten Charlie and make a dying struggle. However, he knew very well in his heart that he was nothing more than a fake tiger. Our family is just an ordinary cousin of the Rothschild family, and the weight and energy are not that strong at all. The so-called foreign relatives, in ancient and modern times, refer to the relatives of the emperor, the king's mother, and his wife. It is also very simple to face directly, that is, relatives outside and unimportant relatives. Therefore, the Rothschild family basically won't help me. And the strength of our Hogwarts family is indeed not enough. In front of Charlie, it is not worth mentioning. Father, he ran all the way to Aurous Hill. It is absolutely impossible to be an opponent of a snake like Charlie. What's more, Charlie is still the young master of Wade family, the chairman of the Embrand group. The strength is tens of thousands of miles stronger than the Hogwarts family. So, when he came to Aurous Hill, there is almost no possibility other than sending people away from thousands of miles. If he also falls into Charlie's hands, isn't it all over? Thinking of this, Walter hurriedly said, "Wade, this is between the two of us, and he has nothing to do with it." Charlie smiled and said, "Oh. What do you mean?" Walter blurted out, "What I mean is very simple. In the words of your Chinese people, it would be misfortune to your family. So, if you have anything you want to do directly at me, don't involve my dad too." Charlie nodded in agreement, and said seriously, "Walter, what you said sounds very reasonable." Walter hurriedly said, "Then you have to promise me, don't do anything to my father." Charlie sighed helplessly and smiled. "I'm really sorry, Walter, you are a bit late." Walter's eyes widened. "It's a bit late. What do you mean?" Charlie smiled and said, "Your dad has been arrested by me. I will bring him over to see you in a while, so that you, father and son, will reunite." As if struck by lightning, Walter blurted out, Why did you move my dad?" Charlie smiled and said, "Why can't I touch your father? Is your father made of gold? Walter said with acanthus, my father has never provoked you. What right do you have to touch him? Charlie asked curiously, since you have said so, then I really want to ask you, has Doris's father provoked you before? Walter was speechless. He knew very well that the whole thing was all because of his own shamelessness. Had it not been for letting people poison Doris's father and forcing Doris to submit, he would not have had such a miserable end today. So, Charlie asked him back now, and he was speechless all at once. At this time, Charlie sneered and said, you just wait here obediently, and I will send your dad over to reunite with you in a while. After that, he turned around and said to Orville, Orville, come to your office. Orville hurriedly said, okay Master Wade, please follow me. At this moment, Shoude and Steve have been taken by Orville's men to office. Because both of them were unconscious and were tied up, Orville's men could only use scissors to cut the clothes on the two of them into countless strips of cloth. Until all the clothes on and off the two of them were cut, and only a pair of pants remained, a little brother stepped in. He held an empty basin in one hand and a huge bucket in the other. He said with some difficulty, oh, this bucket of water is really heavy. One of the little bosses named Brother Biao walked up to him, put his hand in the bucket and smacked his mouth and said, little sir, your water is not too cold, what's the matter? The younger brother, known as Shoude, hurriedly said, Brother Biao, this water is taken from the bathroom tap. The water in the pipe itself may not be too cold. Brother Biao opened his mouth and said, hurry up and get some crushed ice in the freezer, go. Orville's kennel has hundreds of different breeds of fighting dogs, all of which are hugely appetizing breeds. In order to maintain the wild nature of fighting dogs, he usually feeds raw meat to the dogs. With such a large amount of raw meat being consumed here, Orville spent money to build a small cold storage specifically for storing various frozen meats. Shoude brought back a large pile of ice cubes. Biaoge instructed him to pour all the ice cubes into the bucket. The water in the bucket immediately became bitterly cold. Immediately, Brother Biao looked at Shoude and Steve who were tied together, and slapped his lips. Master Wade said to pour a basin of water for each of them, but these two old dogs are tied together, you guys, hurry up and separate them first. As soon as the voice fell, they heard a voice saying, there is no need to separate them anymore, just give them a bucket of water and get them both wet and dew. It was Charlie who spoke. When Brother Biao saw Charlie coming, he hurriedly said respectfully, okay, Master Wade. After speaking, he directly picked up the bucket and poured the entire bucket of ice water on Shoude and Steve. This bucket of ice water with icy ballast immediately poured Shoude and Steve to the heart. The two people woke up instantly. The bone-to-heart cold made the two of them scream, their whole bodies trembling violently. Shoude's head even bears a pile of ice cubes that has not completely melted away. The two realized that they had been tied into a ball, and they were suddenly terrified. Shoude blurted out, Wade. Charlie. Where did you get me? Charlie smiled slightly and said, didn't I tell you a long time ago? Seeing you come from afar, I, as the host, will naturally do my best as a landlord. I have prepared a good room for you. Come and enjoy yourself. Steve on the side also asked in a panic, Who are you? What do you want to do? Charlie looked at him and said with a smile, Mr. Steve, right. When we first meet, I will introduce myself. My name is Charlie Wade. Steve said nervously, Charlie. I don't seem to know you, why did you kidnap me? Charlie laughed, Mr. Steve came to Aurous Hill this time to find your son Walter, right? Steve's eyes widened and exclaimed, you know Walter. Charlie nodded and said lightly, more than knowing, he was invited here by me. Steve couldn't hide his excitement and said, where is he? I want to see him. Charlie smiled and said, don't worry, I will arrange a grand reunion ceremony for you father and son in a moment, but you have to wait a little longer, I have something to do, I have to talk to Mr. Su first. After speaking, he looked at Shoude and sneered, Mr. Su, be acquainted, just say what you have, don't wait for me to force you to say it. Hearing Charlie's words, Shoude's fat body shuddered suddenly, and he blurted out, I don't know anything, what do you want me to say? Charlie took out his mobile phone from his pocket, pointed the camera at Shoude, and sneered, I only give you one chance. You can tell me honestly, how did your Su family murder Liona and Zhiyu? If your performance satisfies me, I can temporarily save you a dog's life, but if your performance makes me unsatisfactory, then I will let you be listed as a missing person permanently. Shoude was shocked. He is not a fool. Charlie kidnapped him directly. On the one hand, he proved that he has extraordinary strength. On the other hand, he also proved that he must have enough aftermath ability. So, he thought to himself, I disappeared silently in the eyes of the outside world this time. The outside world is afraid that they can't find me at all. Even if Charlie kills me, it will be difficult for the outside world to find the body. More importantly, everyone knows that Su family's people can't be touched, but even so, Charlie dared to do something with me, which proves that he didn't put Su family in his eyes. Charlie didn't put the Su family in his eyes. This was what worried Shoude the most. He felt that Charlie didn't try to make money, nor did he give any face to the Su family. In this case, he really wanted to kill him. Probably it's not just a sentence. Therefore, if he does not perform well enough, he might really die in his hands. So he sighed inwardly, I betrayed my father today. If I survive, he will definitely not spare me in the future. In the final analysis, the most important thing at the moment is to save life first. Otherwise, my father's reputation is preserved, and my head is gone. What the hell am I? Thinking of this, he hurriedly said, I speak all. Charlie pointed to the camera and said coldly, come on, face the camera, and explain to me word by word. Shoude immediately said, the killing of Liona and Zhiyu was indeed done by the Su family, but it was planned by my father Chengfeng alone, and it has nothing to do with me. Immediately afterwards, Shoude explained the whole process of plotting the old man Chengfeng to kill Liona. Charlie thought slightly, and asked him, okay, then let me ask you, why did Chengfeng kill Zhiyu? Zhiyu is his granddaughter. This seems a bit unreasonable. Is it because the person who wants to kill her is another person? When Shoude heard this, he was so nervous that even his breathing was a little disordered, and his brain immediately started to revolve. He knew very well that he wanted to kill Zhiyu, not what Elder Su meant. However, under this situation, Shoude absolutely dare not admit it. Although I can't figure out Charlie's preference for Zhiyu, Charlie saved Zhiyu twice in Japan and in this city. This is a real fact. So, if I confess to Charlie that I was actually going to kill Zhiyu, then Charlie might be even more upset to me. Thinking of this, Shoude had a plan to make a living, blurted out, I am telling you. Actually. In fact, my father is also very dissatisfied with Zhiyu. He always feels that she is always protecting her mother Liona. With his elbow turned away, my father even suspected that Zhiyu was not from the Su family at all, so he planned to kill her and Liona together, and it would be 100. Charlie looked at him with interest, and asked, is this really the case? Shoude nodded unswervingly and said, really true. Everything I said is true. Charlie sneered and said, it's interesting, it's interesting. Shoude looked at Charlie and felt nervous. He didn't know what Charlie meant. Don't know if he believed his own words, or if he knew it a long time ago, he secretly murdered Zhiyu. Therefore, he decided to do everything possible to make Charlie believe in himself, and blurted out, actually, my father has long been dissatisfied with my elder brother's family. He drove my elder brother to Australia a long time ago, and then deprived him of his patriarch's inheritance right. This time, my father is not only going to kill Liona and Zhiyu, but before I come to this city, he also wanted me to put Zhifei under house arrest. But this kid Zhifei reacted faster and escaped early. However, even if he escaped, many of the Su family members were looking for his whereabouts. Once he is found, he will be driven to Australia just like my elder brother, or, like his sister Zhiyu, was directly cleared. After listening to him, Charlie stopped filming the video and frowned. Shoude, you keep saying that your father wanted to kill Zhiyu, but based on what I learned from other places, it seems that this is not the case. Why do you want to put a poop on your father's head? Shoude was shocked immediately, and blurted out, no. I didn't give my father any shish. Teapots, but what I said is the truth. The truth. Charlie sneered. Okay, I'll find someone to come over and confront you. After speaking, he immediately said to Orville, go and bring that steward. Shoude heard the word steward, his whole body was already scared. He did not expect that steward is still alive now. Even more unexpectedly, Stuart was in Charlie's hands. This game is over, this game is completely over. Stuart is the old man's personal bodyguard. He came to kill Liona, and he was ordered by the old man. He must know that the old man did not order Zhiyu's life. When he comes, am I going to show my stuff? Originally, Shoude was frozen into a dead dog by a basin of cold water, but now, he was nervous and began to sweat. He looked at Charlie in a panic, and said falteringly, "Charlie, you can't believe that Stuart. That guy always runs the train with his mouth full, and there is no truth." Charlie smiled slightly. "When he comes later, you two can confront each other on the spot." Shoude was nervous to the extreme, wondering if Stuart was here for a while, and Charlie would see through his tricks. Soon, Stuart, handcuffed, was brought over by Orville's younger brother. When Stuart saw Charlie just now, he knelt down and begged for mercy for the first time. Seeing Charlie again at this time, he was about to kneel down and beg for a few more words, but saw that there were actually two naked people in the room. The young man, after a closer look, he discovered that one of them was the second son of the Su family, Shoude. At this time, Stuart was struck by lightning. He never dreamed that he would see the second son of the Su family here. At the same time, he was more frightened and jealous of Charlie in his heart. Because he really didn't expect Charlie to be so rigid, even the second son of the Su family would not be spared. Seeing Stuart's frightened legs trembled, Charlie looked at him, pointed at Shoude and asked coldly, "Stuart, do you know this person?" Stuart nodded hurriedly, and said respectfully, "Master Shoude, I know him, he is the second son of the Su family, Shoude." Shoude stared at Stuart nervously at this time, and reminded, "Stuart, in front of Mr. Charlie, you have to pay attention to what you say. No matter what you say, you must be responsible." Charlie frowned and asked Shoude, "Did I let you talk?" After finishing speaking, he pointed to Shoude and ordered Orville, "Orville, give a hand."